I have loved every season of The Crown. I never fell off this show, but I am aware that many others have, because as they approach the modern royal family, and the story is no longer a historical period piece, but instead very much ripped from today's headlines, or headlines that, everybody remembers themselves, or most people do, it's become a lot harder for the show to be a unanimous crowd pleaser. Most audiences, as I just said, now actually remember these events, or at least have, and the royals that were depicted in them, or at least have already formulated strong opinions about them. And since Charles and Diana are very much pick a side, and last season really was very kind to Charles and Camilla, I think that's something that, and also some people just don't like the drama of the modern royal family. So while they liked the earlier seasons, which seemed more almost like a fictional story because of how removed everybody is from that, now I think people are it's just there's a little bit too much drama, right? And I think that's turning a lot of people off from the royal family in real life even today. And then the other problem I think the show has had is that Imelda Staunton is not nearly as compelling as Queen Elizabeth as Claire Foy and Olivia Colman were. So the show not only is suddenly much more debated, instead of everybody just saying it's the best thing ever, but it's also, I think, by many people been dismissed or forgotten. You either actively got rid of it or you just fell off of it. Where are you? Did you ever watch The Crown? If so, are you still watching it? If you'd stopped, at what season did you stop and why? I'd be curious to hear your journey. But no matter what it was, you got to come back in now. And even if you've never watched a single episode of The Crown, you can just jump in right now. That's the beauty of season 6, the final season, part 1, which is just 4 episodes that dropped today. I don't know why the review embargo date is so late, because it's incredible. Although maybe some people, because Diana is a tricky figure, and people have complex and strong emotions about her, I'm not entirely sure how this season will be received, but I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Not only does it switch to Elizabeth Debicki's Diana being front and center, much like Elizabeth has been in all the previous seasons, but it reinvents itself. It's more in the vein of Ryan Murphy's, get this, American Crime Story, the good one, 2016's O.J. Simpson trial breakdown. Oh my goodness, with these 4 episodes breaking down exactly what happened to Diana in a shockingly short amount of time. To realize that it took just 8 weeks for her life to spin out of control and come to a tragic end is mind-blowing. It's just incredible. And these 4 episodes are a very worthy successor to the O.J. Simpson show. I think it's just as good as that show. Far more so than the 2 official follow-ups to American Crime Story. And this show has the same amazing quality and insight, not just into what happened at that time, but how it was a turning point in many ways in history and society. And watching this show, you can see that a lot of what we are dealing with today when it comes to celebrity started here. Isn't that amazing? In fact, I think you could argue this was the birth of modern celebrity, both the overwhelming positives and negatives, where it was a total loss, just the beginning, thanks to technology and public appetites and how fast you could get the news up. It was just the beginning of a total loss of privacy and objectification of public figures. And of course, you add to that an extra layer of the positives and negatives of female celebrity. And it all happened, as I said, so quickly and intensely in just 8 weeks. And you realize that it was impossible for Diana to navigate the situation because it had never happened to anyone else before. She was in this situation, tragically a trailblazer. I mean, she couldn't look to what anybody else would or should have done because she was the first one. And everyone, from the paparazzi to even the Fayed family, saw her as a commodity rather than a person. When I was in college, I read a fascinating essay that it really, had an effect on me that says that men are judged by what they can do to you and women are judged by what you can do to them. And to see that playing out, again, in this context of celebrity is really, really interesting. Oh my goodness. I love these 4 episodes. Again, as I said, I can't recommend them highly enough. And they're just 4 and you can binge them and you will. I watch them in 24 hours. And with the current mania over true crime shows and that Diana even today captivates the public but has never gotten the true crime treatment, this might put The Crown, the show itself, back in the pop culture spotlight. I mean, it might be too late for this show, but I hope that this maybe gets people to pay attention. Not only because it's a great show, but because this is such a great take on the Diana situation. Now, perhaps up until now it was too soon to do a true crime perspective, but I think The Crown handles the situation very delicately and even-handedly, so it works and is still respectful. On that note, while The Crown season 5 made an effort, a very strong effort, to be even-handed in depicting Charles and Diana, both sides, and they do that here as well. They're still very sympathetic to Charles and Camilla, but the focus, we'll talk about Charles, but the focus shifts so strongly to Diana in these 4 episodes that it's the strongest argument I've ever seen in her favor to date. Not just in what happened to her, but validifying her as a celebrity and a historical figure. I mean, I think she really, in the past, she's only gotten the tabloid treatment, and now they move her up, they level her up to the history books, which is really, I think, not only a cool thing to see, but the show makes it very clear, deserved. And by looking at Diana through the lens of history and presenting compelling arguments and connections where in the past we've only had conspiracy theories, this makes the show's sympathies to Diana even stronger, as they seem totally earned. And it doesn't come across, again, as I said, as playing favorites, right? They're still being very fair to both sides. Whereas, again, with Charles and Diana, it's always been, whose side are you on? Now, when it comes to Charles, it really helps that they cast Dominic West in this role, because while Elizabeth Debicki seems to be channeling Princess Diana, and I continue to be shocked that she does not get more attention for her work on this show, it's just that good. But Charles was never anything like West, not at all. For one thing, West's Charles is extremely transparent with his emotions, but the real life Charles has always kept everything bottled up to the point that I think it makes him very unsympathetic. And also, West has a likable, down-to-earth look, where Charles is like white privilege and indifference personified. However, while The Crown is infamous for its speculation of what happens behind closed doors, and there's one scene that I'm like, I don't know about this. But apparently Charles's gut-wrenching reaction to learning of Diana's death, I think that actually happened. Many people say that was true, and you'll see that there were a number of public witnesses, so I think we would know if it were true or not, and jury says true. And that makes it just absolutely fascinating, because you'd never guess he'd be so devastated based on the popular and media depiction of their relationship. And it really does make you feel like, hey, maybe we didn't know everything. And I think this show provides a lot more nuance. And just how complicated and complex relationships and divorce can be, especially when you have children that keep you together. Imelda Staunton's The Queen is still here, and she's depicted not just as being cold, which she has been for several seasons now, but also horribly out of touch with the evolution of society, which makes her unintentionally cruel. But make no mistake, you see her sometimes here being intentionally cruel. However, because she's no longer the lead character, at least of this season, or season 6, part 1, the show makes less of an effort to explain where she's coming from, why she makes the choices that she does, and to make them less baffling and a little bit more, at least you understand where she's coming from. So with these 4 episodes, you're just like, Charles and Diana, you're just like, damn, Elizabeth, what is wrong with you? Also, for the first time, the Crown, the show, truly goes beyond just the royal family, perhaps because both Charles and Diana didn't want to remain isolated and cut off from the world like Queen Elizabeth did and, always did. So we focus on members of the press, publicists, and politicians here. One episode, I think it's the second of the 4, focuses on Charles and Diana fighting a PR war, and we often see them through the eyes of 2 very different photographers that are following them. And that is just such a good episode, not only because it's just good, but it picks such a brilliant and fresh perspective on a very well-known story. And business titans, of course, are also in the mix. So rich, they find themselves in the same circles as the royal family. Yes, the Fayed family. Salim Daw continues to do an excellent job as Mohammed Al Fayed, and he is a great addition to the cast of this show. And his character is even more complex this season. His hand in Diana's fate, totally unintentional, but how he is involved is just one of the most fascinating things to come out of this series, or these 4 episodes as well. And Khalid Abdallah is back as his son Dodi Fayed, and he gets to do more this time around. He is an interesting character, especially because, everybody was just focused on Diana. Really, nobody knew that much about Dodi, and they kind of show that a little bit on the show. But he and Diana have some great scenes together, particularly one that I really liked. Well, you'll see, but it's the one where they go out for ice cream. That was just really well done. Back to Diana, this show continues to do a wonderful job of pointing out that for all the drama that surrounded her, much of it self-orchestrated, but that again spiraled out of her control, at her core, she was a wonderful mother to William and Harry, and those scenes before and after her death are some of the most heartbreaking. And to see Charles have to pick up the pieces, and Charles, of course, not being at all well equipped to do that, is just really, really well done and heart-wrenching. So as I said, I cannot recommend The Crown Season 6 Part 1, 4 episodes, highly enough. And as I said, you don't have to have watched a single former episode to jump in and see these 4. They're really encapsulated because these 4 episodes focus entirely on the 8 weeks before Diana's death, again, with an American crime story style approach. And what's brilliant about these 4 episodes is that they offer a new perspective on Diana for those who already know her story very well. But on the flip side, this new perspective, I think, might draw some people in who before weren't interested in Diana's story. It's just really, really well done. It is also fascinating to see, again, as I said, how the world views women, both at the time that the events are unfolding, and then through the lens of history many, many decades later, which can give us new perspective thanks to our distance, both in terms of time and emotionally from these events. Incredible historical storytelling and I think true crime storytelling. It just doesn't get better than this. And it can't be emphasized enough how much this evolves Diana's legacy and gives her more agency. I love that. And depth and nuance in her own story. Really, I've never seen Diana depicted with so much agency. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, it means being the captain of her own ship. Even when she's on stormy seas and she can't control her ship, at least she's at the wheel. I mean, it's really, really interesting stuff. Even if you've never been, if you're a big Diana fan, I think you'll be happy with this. And if you haven't been interested in Diana up until now, I think this will make you interested. So as I said, these 4 episodes are available right now on Netflix. Go watch them. And then part 2, another additional 6 episodes, which wraps up The Crown forever. They're not going to try and do Harry and Meghan. Although I think that if they could handle Diana, I think they could do it. But I mean, again, maybe not enough time has passed. Maybe a decade from now, or 5 or 6 years at least, they'll do another Crown. It'll come back for that. But anyway, these 4 episodes are available, and I highly recommend that you go watch them and then mark your calendar for the rest of the season if this is your thing. All right, so share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.